right?
Oh boy.
We'll throw down for you, but there's no guarantees. I was telling
Yeah.
somebody, I said, we got into a lot of fights when we were younger. What happens is like these legends happen. And I'm like, yeah, took way more L's though. Me coming up took so many L's. People remember the few W's, but I mean, there were a lot of L's along the way.
Absolutely. And part of those L's is what helps to make you actually win later on. So you need to take some of those L's.
Okay, so if you say so, thank you.
Uh,
I'll tell
it
that
builds your
hickey.
character.
I'll tell that hickey on my head from circa 1982, what you just said. That was character building, not life threatening. Anyway, hey folks, this is the Power Hour coming to you live every Monday through Friday morning, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., bright and early for you. Wow, WURD, or as we call it here, WURD Radio. You can check us out at wordradio.com. And again, that's spelled WURD radio.com. You can also go old school and listen to the terrestrial signal. That is 900 AM. Who even thought back then? It's like kind of like, you have one, you give birth to one thing and you think that's it. But now it's 96.1 FM. It's in the App Store. It's on YouTube Live, Facebook Live. I mean, it's just sprawling. Who knows where this thing will end? But right now, there are a ton of different ways for you to tune in and check us out. And by us, I mean the Power Hour. Sitting across from me to help carry this show through the next hour is none other than Grandfather, also known as Bishop Dwayne David Royster, who is the newest grandfather in the WURD family. What's up, Grandpa?
I'm doing all right. I can't complain. And sitting across from me is the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler, who will actually coin the term God great uncle, whatever it is. It's going to be the God grandfather. There we go.
There you go.
So very excited to be here with you this morning. It's been a long weekend, but I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell the kid, I'm like, hey, listen, can't get in touch with Bishop. He's out of town or whatever. Your God grandfather got you. You need money. I got you. That's what grandfathers do. That's all we do. Well, I'm not like I'm really one, right? So I'm practicing. I'm going to practice on Chardonnay's son to be a grandfather.
There you go.
I'm going to keep $1 bills in my pocket. or if you're like my grandfather, quarters.
There you go.
You want two of them? I think that's it. Money grows on trees.
Yeah, right.
And listen, the glue holding it all together is none other than the person in the studio who, should we ever open the phone lines again, would answer your calls. None other than Kawesa.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Doing okay. A little tired, though. I don't know what that's about. I got enough sleep, but feeling it a little bit. And the
Were you
allergies,
partying all weekend?
I wish I was. No.
You young folks start to step out after a while, so you get tired of being in the house.
No, 8 o'clock. Actually, 6 o'clock rolls around, and I'm like, my bed's looking pretty good right now. But no, I don't know. Allergies, just kicking my butt today. But I am here. It's a good day. It's supposed to be beautiful today, so I'm happy about that.
Gotcha. How was your ride in?
Pretty easy. No real issues. Trucks today, not buses, but trucks that I was behind. So, not too bad. There was a little bit of like water on the ground. I don't know I don't remember. Did it rain? I guess maybe it rained a little bit at some point, but I don't know where that came from. But besides that, pretty easy. And I got here safe and sound. So.
There were scattered showers over the weekend, so they showed up periodically. So that probably is what happened. Probably just a shower here, a shower there. I got you.
Yeah.
So, I figured that, HBCU grads around graduation time, they all start to, get together, party, and reminisce. So I figured that's what you were doing since you're a graduate of the other HU. So,
what are you talking about? That's not what we do. It's homecoming you're talking about.
No, but I thought y'all get together around graduation time too, do stuff around, you don't do that. Okay.
I mean, the ones who are close enough, I guess, but most of us, no. I mean, like Clark, for example, does they actually have like a spring event, and it's kind of geared to what you're talking about. But if you're in Atlanta, maybe. But no, it's not. Homecoming is the one,
Don't
bro.
they have the alumni process-in by years, like special years that go in and process in before the graduates to
They
remember
do.
that experience?
They do. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I
that's what I'm
mean,
talking
but
about.
again, nah, it's still not the same. It ain't the same. Trust me.
Okay.
May does not compare to October. Am I telling the story, Kwesa? Maybe yours is different at Hampton. That HU. Now, oh, here comes a flood of the real
Oh
HUs. I know.
gosh, no.
Back down, Howard. Stand down.
No, I mean honestly, they did a lot of alumni events. I remember when I haven't been back for graduation. I feel like I want the graduating class to really appreciate and enjoy what they're going through. They don't got to deal with an old head like me. So I'm like, I'm good. But yeah, you're right though. It was homecoming where everybody just kind of rained down on campus.
And then wouldn't go home.
Yeah, at
I
all.
mean, when I was in my 20s, I left. And I come back for homecoming, man, it'd be like Wednesday after homecoming. I'm like, why am I still in Atlanta? Like changing flights. Like, no, I'm not going back yet. You see your
That's
old
bad.
faculty like, don't you have somewhere to be, sir? All right. See you next year. So listen, good morning, folks on Facebook Live. Hit the share button and YouTube as well. And if you're on Facebook Live, just check in so we know who's out there. Glad to see Gary and Lois, Deborah, Asa Khalif. He's getting ready. I saw a lot of his activity on social media around voting. Karen, glad to see you, Karen Gold. Tawanda is having problems with allergies. I hear you. I mean, even
That's
on
so my, yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
got my Zyrtec in my pocket with me because the bike is filled with pollen. I had to convince a bee yesterday that it was not a flower.
Mm.
The bee wouldn't leave. I was like, bro, what are you doing? You can't pollinate this motorcycle. Like, get off of it and go somewhere else. You're embarrassing yourself. Glad to see Wanda, as well as Renee and others who are coming in this morning. So, my brother,
Yes.
Sheriff is in. What's up, Sheriff Bilal? Glad to see you in as well. And so we have an election tomorrow that we can talk about.
Yes.
Today there is a long all-day hearing on CPOC, the Citizens Police Oversight Commission. Yours truly and others from Power Live Free will be testifying, along with Malcolm Jenkins and a whole slew of people. Check this out. They open today with Malcolm Jenkins.
Wow.
Guess who brings the closing argument?
You do.
No, I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle of the lineup.
Okay.
They don't trust me with the closing.
You're a good closer, man. I've heard you preach on many occasions.
No, I'm out of practice because I haven't been in the building. But let me tell you who the closer is. Michael Cord, Esquire.
Oh, wow.
Opening with Malcolm Jenkins, closing today with Michael Cord. I rest my case. So that's happening today. I do want to take a few minutes to talk about it because some things that kind of popped up around the amendments that are being proposed and some things that we've been kicking around with the Live Free Police Accountability table. And shout out to my co-director, Power Live Free, Elder Melanie DeBose, and our co-chair, Gail Lax, and that incredible team of people who just give like tirelessly to that effort. But we got to also talk about COVID. Reverend Jay Broadnax will be on in the second segment. Some of the members of Black Clergy, the organization, are doing some things around vaccination. And you better get it now because, man, after last week, I think we all misunderstood what Fauci said. I think people just felt like, he said, nobody needs a mask anymore. No, he said, if you've been vaccinated, you're outside. And ain't nobody asking what people have done. But remember, there are a lot of unvaccinated people out there. And let me just say, bro, we are giving our vaccines a run for their money right about now. We're going to see if it works, right?
Look, but there's a part of us, right? There's some black folk that finally, when they finally realized this thing was real, now we don't want to take our mask off, right? and I'm not mad. I'm like, look, there's going to be come on now. You know how long it took to convince black folk that they had to do something about this to finally get the vaccine. And then all of a sudden, when it's only really a small portion of the country that's actually vaccinated. 200 million people in the United States are still not fully vaccinated, right? So that means like the majority of the country is not fully vaccinated. There are folk that are sort of like, I ain't taking my mask off.
Bro, You are. I mean, listen, you are not kidding. I mean, seriously, it's like even when I'm with other people I know been vaccinated, it's like, all right, mentally, I'm like, I can take this off, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it's
For
stuck
real.
in under the board. It is like, look, so I had mine off with some vaccinated people over the weekend. Small pod that I was like rolling with, but yeah, man, in the back of my mind, the whole time I'm like, oh man, I actually had like a nightmare last night. Woke up thinking like, huh, did I catch it? I mean, after a full year of being so careful, and I mean, I was in protests and all kind of things that I had to do. We traveled,
Mhm.
and you think about the hand washing and everything else that you did to then get this far, and then something happened, man.
Oh
That's
yeah.
just like that's crushing. And so, again, you're right. It's going to take a while. In fact, black folk will, like you said, I think you'll see black people and people from, countries like China and Japan, and Taiwan, and other places will be the only ones in the airport with masks. They'll be
Mm.
like, "You must be black from America." Yep.
Absolutely. I'm like, I don't know where you've been.
Hey, there has not been a COVID sighting in 10 years. You can take off. Nah, I'm good, bro. I'm good, son.
I'm gonna buy out the whole row of the airplane. I'm like, no, nobody's sitting next to me. I'm sorry.
Hey, hey, that's so funny. Listen, real quick, we did ask people to check in. So glad to see Mabel and Craig. Glad to see Bernita, Valerie, and Dora. I always mess your name up. Dora Ladine. I think I got it. I'm gonna keep on moving. I won't try it again. Mess it up. Danessa is in the house as well as Tracy and Kateria McCabe.
Judge.
And she's running too.
Hmm.
And Rob Garland. Glad to see all of you all this morning. So, my friend,
Hmm.
tomorrow is an election.
Yes.
Front page of the Inquirer talked about something that I've been trying to say as well in a lot of different interviews and places where I've been asked to talk about the election. It makes just a very powerful case about the people who are most impacted by this type of election, where people are running for judge and district attorney, that most young black folk will never meet the president of the United States,
That's right.
will never meet the governor of their state,
Hmm.
and probably will not even meet their mayor or city council member.
Hmm.
But many or their friends or people they love and that they're close to will stand before a judge and be impacted by the direct decisions of a district attorney. And given that, it seems that it's easier to get them worked up to vote for Joe Biden or Donald Trump than it is for Larry Krasner or Carlos Vega. Please
Hmm.
explain this to me.
Yeah, it's simple. It's the difference between billions of dollars being spent to get your attention and, a few $100,000. That's really what it comes down to, right? When you think about the presidential races, they start anywhere between 24 to 18 months before the actual election. Hundreds of millions of dollars are spent. Actually, and by the time you're the candidate for a particular party, billions of dollars are being spent on advertisement, mailers, radio advertisement, social media, and you're just bombarded. The news is covering it and telling, the stories and helping you to learn who these particular candidates are. And we don't have that same level of intentionality or expense around races like the DA and judges. We don't make that same level of investment. Part of it is because they're really a part of the third part of the political spectrum, right? So you have the executive, you have the legislative, and then you have the judicial. And when it comes to the politics of the judicial, it's not as much attention paid to it as it is on the legislative and the executive. And that's at every level of government, right? So that's a governor, state senator, state rep. It could be mayor, city council members, right? Those are both the executive and the legislative branches. But then there's always this judicial branch. And although the district attorney is a row officer, an elected member, it's really a person that's a part of the judicial side of the branch. And there's just not as much investment there. Part of it has been over the years past, though, that was generally given to the people who were most conservative and most people that were law and order oriented. And actually, those were some of the lowest turnout elections in the city. It's only been since the last cycle, that election cycle, that we've really seen much more interest in, particular as Black Lives Matter has risen and there's been this call for reforming of the criminal justice system, that there has been this move to sort of make more investment in both the DA's races, sheriff's races, and now judicial races. And I think we're a couple cycles away from getting people engaged at the same level as we would a mayoral race.
See, that's why it's good to have smart friends. You ask a simple question and you get a really, really good answer. I'm telling you, man, that's like, we ought to cut that out and like use that as a clip to promote the show. That you're right. I mean, who can argue that the money that gets dumped in, and think about the backlash right now, right? So in places like, so Larry Krasner won 4 years ago on a reform agenda pushed by unlikely people. I mean, the fact that you have an Asa Khalif, for example, who became known to us, pushing, the agenda of Black Lives Mattering, who's supporting him. That would have never happened 8 years ago in St. Louis, in Dallas, in Chicago, all around the country. I think people have realized the impact of that office, and that, you know what? You don't have to actually cede to the current powers that be, and have really targeted that. It's going to see, we're going to see in the next full election cycle. Philly is kind of the battleground that people are using as a bellwether. And what happens tomorrow about whether this reform type agenda is a flash in the pan, and will people just reflexively go back to, as you said, what we consider to be quote unquote law and order. Though Mr. Vega probably wouldn't consider himself, he wouldn't label himself that way. But if you got the FOP,
if you got the FOP backing you, I don't understand how you're not.
Well, again, you're gonna be perceived that way regardless, right? And so, but again, my question is whether or not what happens tomorrow will be a signal to all those other cities that just lifted up, and will probably be the tail of the tape. So listen, at 6:22, we got to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Hit the share button, and love to hear your comments and your thoughts about what we're talking about this morning. Again, we got the election tomorrow, citizens police oversight, CPOC hearings all day today. And are you ready to take your COVID mask off just yet? We'll be right back.
Jefferson Health offers no-cost COVID-19 testing sites at St. Raymond of Pinafort Church. Testing is on Thursdays and Saturdays. A second testing location has been added at Richard Allen Preparatory Charter School. Testing is on Wednesdays and Fridays. For testing hours and more information, visit jeffersonhealth.org/community testing. The Mattress Man is a second-generation family-owned mattress specialist business since 1988. Open 7 days a week, located at 7421 Stanton Avenue. The Mattress Man discounts Serta, memory foam, orthopedic, and ComfortTech mattresses every day. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure you get the best price and best service. The Mattress Man offers same-day delivery on most models to most areas. Ask about the WURD discount. Call 215-424-5550.
Imagine signing a loan for your dream kitchen, only later to find an undisclosed balloon payment due in 3 years. This happened. Deceptive mortgage brokers preyed on Philadelphians. I went after the banks and forced them to forgive $2 million. My name is Chris Hall. I am a candidate for the Court of Common Pleas in the May 18th primary. The Bar Association rates me highly recommended. Visit chrishallforjudge.com. Button 22, paid for by Friends of Chris Hall.
Yo, listen up. Hers is making Philly victory even sweeter this year. This season, when Philly wins, you win too, in more than just one way. To participate, here's all you have to do. Follow Hers on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Stay tuned during select home games this season. When our teams win, you get a chance to score some exciting post-game prizes, like hats, autographed memorabilia, and more. When Philly breaks out to win, break out to Hers. Prizing while supplies last.
Tune in Election Day, May 18th at 11 a.m. to the Laborers District Pact Fund live broadcast. Moderated by Charles Ellison and hosted by Ryan Boyer, Ernest Owens, and Tony Staten. A lineup of in-person interviews from the candidates on Election Day, May 18th at 11 a.m.
Vote for Judge Mark J. Moore for the Court of Common Pleas on May 18th, button number 23. A native of Philadelphia, Judge Moore was appointed to the Court of Common Pleas by Governor Wolf in 2020 after 2 decades as a trial attorney. Judge Moore sits in criminal court where he focuses on social justice and public safety. Judge Moore is fair, effective, and even-tempered. Vote for Judge Mark J. Moore for the Court of Common Pleas on May 18th, button number 23. Paid for by Friends of Mark J. Moore.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM. and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. We're here Monday through Fridays from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news happenings around Philadelphia and, of course, our opinions. And we have plenty of them, plenty of opinions.
Rob thinks that what you touched on is an example of what he's been calling for, the need for adult civic education and like an adult version of Schoolhouse Rock. I have to agree. Like I said, again, I thought that answer was just spot on. If you missed it, check out the recording of this after the show goes off. You can always look at it on Facebook Live. But to hear Bishop's comments around why there's low voter turnout in the races that literally, I mean, you think about like, last year, why were so many people arrested and given federal charges for protesting in Louisville? Because you couldn't get an indictment from the DA's office in Louisville, right? Why is Derek Chauvin now convicted felon and murderer? Because you had an state attorney general.
That's right.
Who stepped. Now the DA did try, but they screwed it up. And but
he took over. Yeah.
Yeah, and he didn't fall from heaven, folks. He's elected.
Former Congressman Keith Ellison, yes.
Yeah, who got people all riled up because he swore when he became a congressman. You remember this? When he was sworn in, he put his hand on the Quran.
That's right.
Because he's Muslim.
That's right.
Why would he put his hand on the Bible if he's a Muslim?
And Eid Mubarak to all our Muslim siblings out there.
They would, if you got all up, I mean, what are you talking about? Why would a Jewish member of Congress put their hands on a Christian Bible? No, put it on the Hebrew Bible. Many of us, might call the Old Testament, but it's the Hebrew Bible for them. So, I just bring that up because it's all that story was just always amazing to me. It's like the Constitution says it's got to be a Bible. No, it doesn't. In fact, you don't have to put your hand on nothing. We've had atheists who've been elected officials. That's right. Who are like, I'm gonna put my hand on Webster's dictionary. Whatever, man. Hey, before we go forward, you sent me a story over the weekend that I couldn't believe.
Yes. This is the one from down south. Yeah. This is really painful, and this stuff just never seems to end. Never seems to end. So there was a black softball player in Durham, North Carolina, who last month was humiliated when, in the middle of a game, she was forced to cut the beads off her braids. Nicole Piles, who was 16 years old, that two umpires that were officiating in the game on April 19th told her, the teenager, who happens to be black, of course, that she had to remove the beads from her braids, which is a traditional black cultural hairstyle connected to black empowerment and pride. And this is from the Huffington Post. And she said she felt the treatment was unfair, and she was humiliated and embarrassed because everybody was trying to figure out what to do. And they basically stopped the game and cut her hair so they could get the beads out.
Okay.
They said to her that her hair was covering her jersey's number, and so she actually tucked the hair back into her jersey, and they still told her she had to take it out, even though her number was never obstructed. They had videos of the game. Her number was never obstructed whatsoever.
Well, first of all, if she's come to your attention in this way, kind of stands to reason that you don't even need her number. You know who she is. Am I right?
That's right.
Secondly, do they think this is like, the black guy in the Bible, Samson, who drew his strength from his hair? That somehow maybe she's like Venus and Serena, who obviously rose to prominence in tennis because of the beads, because they're like special beads, like in the movie Black Panther, where the young lady, T'Challa's sister, made those special beads. I mean, what do they think this is? What is going on here?
I think, actually, after Venus and Serena had that problem with the beads, and there's been several incidents with black children and their hair playing sports. Remember the wrestling young man who did wrestling in New Jersey, that they forced him to cut his hair in the middle of a match. There have been black girls that have been kicked out of schools because they came to school with their hair braided or cornrowed or styled in a way that the schools that they were going to, mostly white Christian schools, did not appreciate, because they certainly don't want any ethnic identity in those spaces. There have been, professional athletes that have had problems. And you even think about it to some extent as the beads themselves are a cultural representation. When you think about major black sports players that have, like Colin Kaepernick and others, that are making statements about their ethnicity and identity, this is part of trying to shut all that down. There were laws that were passed in local areas to prevent black ethnic identity when it came to sports. And then this particular sports federation, which is the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, and they use the rules from the National Federation of State High Schools and Association. There's a rule that they have for softball games that state that plastic visors, bandanas, and head beads are all prohibited. This is not a new rule. They've had this for a while. But the Durham Public Schools, to which this young lady goes to school, Nicole goes to school in, says that they believe that a blanket ban on hair beads is culturally biased and problematic. So, and it's interesting, the Durham City Council voted in January to ban employers from discriminating based on hairstyles. So somebody needs to go back and tell them to fix their policies and update their policies with regard to this. So this is just another way to be able to slam and try to prevent our young folk from being able to represent their culture and their identity in the public, which is often the work at hand.
Yeah. So, and let's see, Tawanda says entire legislation has been needed for adult black women to go to work in their natural hair in certain parts of the country.
That's right.
Leslie Tyler chimed in on that, saying, yes, the Crown Act. Then this from Robert Garland, who says, it's part of the irrational fear of black spirituality. They think we have some weird connection to the supernatural. Then he says, which may be true, but the beads has some kind of meaning, right? Yeah, I mean, it's this. Yeah, listen, if we had some kind of supernatural power, by the way, we would have used it to turn the daggone slave ships back to Africa. Jesus.
I mean, and I appreciate what Sheila said. She said this particular rule is directly directed at black women, right? Because white women don't necessarily wear beads in their hair, but black women definitely do. So I would have totally agree with you on that, Sheila. I don't think you're wrong about that by any means. Here's honestly, we should just stop playing in leagues that don't want us, that create rules to try to prevent us. When the NFL stopped doing, except everybody was so caught up in their money, everybody should have stood out with Colin, right? When the NBA started coming down on the black players, folks should have just rolled out. And when their owners, like what was it? Wasn't Golden State? What was the other team in California?
The Clippers, LA Clippers,
right? Everybody should just boycott it. Just like, I'm not playing it. I'm sick, and done a sick out, right? And that cost them millions of dollars a game. In taking a stand and be like, no, we're not going to do this. That's the kind of solidarity we need in this moment. If we're really going to make change, that's how you have to break the economic system to actually be able to create the change that you want.
Hey, I knew this would only take a moment for you to get. This is another episode of why you don't like sports. I knew it. So as soon as I even introduced the story, I'm like, why did I do that? He's going to end this with why we shouldn't watch sports.
I'm actually that was not going there, but now that you brought it up.
Yeah, no, you just went there.
I'm just saying we should boycott if and I'm not talking about people watching it. I'm talking about the players need to boycott. Right? When that jerk that was the coach, the owners of the Clippers was acting crazy because his girlfriend was hanging out with the black players, even though he
Right.
was married. That's a whole nother story. You know, the whole team should have been like, yo, really? That's how that is?
Yeah.
When what's her name, who was the senator in Georgia, I can't think of her name now, I've tried to put it out of my mind, who owned the WNBA team in Atlanta, was acting up. All the WNBA players, I mean, they protested through their shirts and other things that they were wearing, and
Right.
she quickly sold the team after she lost her job as a senator. But, you know, they all should have been like, nah, we're not playing.
Yeah,
We're
I
not
get
going to
that.
play for a racist.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, then who would you ever play for?
Well, that's
I mean,
part of the issue, right?
you kind
And
of like,
then maybe we need to go back to the NBA and say to the NBA, we need more black owners.
well, Karen, listen, Karen says, yes, and it was Loeffler. Thank you,
Yeah,
Tawana.
Kelly Loeffler, yeah.
Yeah, Karen says that we should boycott the sponsors of some sports, follow the money, which is true. I mean, and listen, we're talking about a high school. The young lady in question is in high school, but softball has. I mean, look, I had no idea the kind of scholarship money out there for girls who are in softball in high school, who become young women and go off to college and play it. Until a good friend of mine, his niece, was being recruited by several Division I schools. Bruh, they pay a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money in, there's a lot of money here involved and wrapped up in it. I mean, this is just, again, one more story that ties to all of these stories. Now, mind you, here's a totally weird connection to this. In Philadelphia, there is an effort to rename a street called Taney, Taney, Taney Street. Remember the Taney Dragons or whatever? What is the little
Little league team in South Philly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they're named after him off of that street rather. And but Taney Street was named after the U.S. Supreme Court Justice Taney. And guess what he was famous for saying?
What's that?
This is the guy who basically really kind of set the tone and put into words what a lot of people felt and what we are still feeling the effects of today, whether it's with the hair, with beads, or whether it's being shot in the back like David Jones in Philadelphia, and everything in between those two extremes. Literally, Taney was known as saying that black people have no rights that a white man is bound to respect. Now, this is a Supreme Court justice sitting, Supreme Court justice. I believe that was with the Dred Scott case. And so, but he has a street named after him in Philadelphia, in South Philly. And so right now there's an effort to remove his name because his words, his decision, his position in the 1800s really solidified. I mean, when you get down to kind of the whole notion of like why people are so shocked that, cities are being burned and things are being turned over around trying to get justice for a George Floyd or a Breonna Taylor or a William Wallace or a Dante Wright or on and on and on and on, it is because there's this expectation that, we don't get Fourth Amendment rights. So unreasonable search and seizure has nothing to do with you and me. That was written for someone else.
Right.
Why do you think that you deserve the right not to be stopped and frisked? Of course we can stop and frisk you because, as Taney said, and set precedent in the 1800s that you, as a black person, have no rights that any white person is bound to respect, let alone law enforcement. See how it comes all full circle?
Yeah, and that like you said, is still in practice today.
Yeah, so your hair beads got to come out. You ain't got no rights that we're bound to respect. Nah. All right, hold on. It's 6:40. We were so bad the last time. We're going to take a break right now when we're supposed to and stop Coesa from like sweating right there in the studio.
Like text like break.
Are they going to blow through this thing again? People are paid for their ads. They want them on time. We apologize. We'll be back on the other side of this break. This is the Power Hour. Put in the Facebook comments what you're thinking this morning. We'll try to read some of those as well. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is John.
Hi, this is Juanita, owners of JD's Auto Body and Painting. We're located at 6300 Wayne Avenue, right there at the intersection of Wayne and Washington Lane.
We really like to thank all you WURD listeners for the support that you've given our business, and we really hope to see you in the future.
JD, tell them about our products and services we have.
We have a new state-of-the-art paint shop along with our body shop and detail shop. We can help you with the dents and scratches from the winter season.
Come to JD's Auto Body and Painting. Come on out and check us out. We're still honoring that WURD 10% discount. Give us a call, 215-848-5949. Again, 215-848-5949.
Thanks again for supporting our business. We really appreciate you.
See you at JD's Auto Body and Painting.
Looking for something fun to watch at home? The Wilma Theater's film production of Fat Ham by Philadelphia playwright James Imes is now streaming online. Fat Ham, directed by Morgan Green, tells the story of a young black man trying to find his joy.
You carrying around your whole family's trauma, man. And that's okay. You okay. But you don't gotta let it define you.
Fat Ham mixes a joyful message of resilience with the humor of a black 90s sitcom. Fat Ham is streaming on demand now through May 23rd. To watch the trailer, visit the Wilma Theater online at wilmatheater.org.
WURD Radio presents the following information to help you navigate the upcoming election.
This is Charles Ellison of Reality Check and City Council Live. Still feeling a bit worn out from the 2020 election? We're not done yet. 2021 is another important year when locally you have the power to pick Philadelphia's district attorney. Who will it be? The current DA and incumbent Larry Krasner, or former assistant DA and challenger Carlos Vega? What we know is this is a closely watched bellwether on the future of issues such as mass incarceration, policing, and public safety. If you want to have a direct say over these issues, simply vote in the upcoming primary on May 18th. If you have your mail-in ballot, you can vote by mail starting May 11th. More information can be found at the Philadelphia City Commissioner website, phillyvotes.com. Continue to follow @onWURD and #WordOnPolitics for analysis and updates while tuning in to WURD Radio for special election coverage. Don't talk about your vote, cast it.
Stay informed and vote. For more from Charles Ellison, tune in Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. or visit wordradio.com.
I am Amanda Green Hawkins, and I am running for Commonwealth Court. I go to work every day to protect people who face discrimination and harassment, workplace injuries, and other unfair labor practices. I was an elected official who successfully sponsored a law to protect people in the LGBTQ+ community. I protect people, not corporations, and I will never forget that I work for the people of Pennsylvania. Vote for me, Amanda Green Hawkins, for Commonwealth Court.
Paid for by Amanda for Judge.
Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
The volume picks up here in Philadelphia. This report sponsored by Smart Mouth, the only 24-hour mouthwash with twice daily use. Schuylkill eastbound, Blue Route through the curb, busy again the boulevard through Montgomery. Westbound side heavy from Broad to Pass Young through construction. Again jammed up Vine Expressway out to Montgomery. An accident there is off to the shoulder. Westbound Vine from Parkway through the Schuylkill Expressway heavy. Southbound 95 jammed Cotman through Bridge. Again busy Betsy Ross through Girard northbound. Looks good. 55 northbound Deptford into 42. Out of jam now this morning. There's nothing that'll scare your hot date away faster than bad breath. Luckily, Smart Mouth mouthwash has got your back for 24 full hours with 2 rinses a day. Smart Mouth is available anywhere mouthwash is sold, so pick up a bottle today or visit smartmouth.com to learn more. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Now, a WURD weather update. Here's NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
A beautiful spring day ahead with lots of sunshine this morning, turning partly sunny this afternoon. We warmed to 77 degrees. A low of 55 tomorrow morning, a bit warmer in the afternoon. Mostly sunny Tuesday, up to 80, and it'll feel like summer on Wednesday with a high of 86. I'm NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. We are in this deep conversation about hair, and it is evident it's picked up on Facebook. Let me just say this because there was somebody who shall remain nameless that was critiquing the fact that some black folk don't know what African hairstyles are, And I'm like, sometimes when you don't have a place that you can truly point to and call home, other than a huge continent called Africa, which is one of the biggest continents in the world, with many different countries in it, and then many different states in those countries that each have cultural identity, sometimes we have to create our own styles and our own identity to be able to understand who it means for us to be as Africans in America, the descendants of slaves and those immigrants that have come in and blended into our community. So there are styles that are appropriately African American that depict our cultural identity and the culture that we have created. And we should support that and make sure that our young people are protected in whatever style they choose to wear their hair that appropriately denotes who they are through their ethnicity and culture.
I mean, listen, let's be real. What has been created in this country, though it has been created through great pain and turmoil, struggle, sacrifice, and the loss of millions of Black lives through the Middle Passage, through slavery, through the era of Jim Crow, and up to the present, by the way, we have created something that is unique. So, I mean, I hear the historical argument, but I mean, the last 200 to 400 years is also historical.
That's right.
And if you've ever traveled to Africa or to parts of the Caribbean or other places where the Black diaspora is, like in South America, Brazil, for example, where there are more Black folk than in America, they all want to be like us now. I'm not saying all, but that may be a stretch, but a lot, wouldn't you say?
Look, if you ever go to South Africa, South Africans love African Americans. They do. Yeah. They adore African Americans. A lot of it has to do with the civil rights movement, the freedom movement that occurred over there, to which they actually, the anti-apartheid movement based a lot of its work on. Archbishop Desmond Tutu took the teachings of King and applied it over there. So, yes, there are a lot of places around the world that actually look to Americans, African Americans, as the cultural harbingers of the African community right now.
Yeah, I mean, so we have, so we have really given the world a lot. Unfortunately, they take our bad, too. That's not good. I have a friend who used to pastor in Cape Town, in a very, very rough part of Cape Town. I mean, you can walk up to the church in the morning and there's like literally a body that's been disposed on the front steps, just like rough like area. And he said that a lot of that was them imitating what they saw in America. I don't even want to call the name of the gang out because I'm like, I like to go to Cape Town. I don't be like, hey, I heard you talking trash about us on WURD.
I've been there twice, and we actually had churches over there. And yes, they've named, the gang identifies themselves as African Americans.
Don't say it. I'm trying to help you, bro. Yeah. They'll be like, hey, you was talking trash about us on WURD? You think we didn't hear it on WURD, son? Son? You're like, well, you sound like DMX. Hey, so, all right, real quick, a couple of things. So I want to address something that was said by Raphael, going back to the election for tomorrow. By the way, you can follow election coverage at WURD on tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of election coverage throughout the day. And so you could, you can watch it there. But one of the comments that he made is, I think, very interesting, and one that we're always torn between. He's making the argument that electing judges, we elect people that we don't know about their qualifications, we don't know who they are, and that's just kind of left to the whim of voters who are often not very educated about their choices, but are just kind of like, as you said earlier, influenced by the kind of money who's able to get their messaging out, right? But I don't think that means, Raphael, or to those who support that the other direction, which is to appoint judges, is somehow inherently better, because the appointment process is also filled with flaws. I mean, the truth is there is no perfect way, right? That's either way is kind of fraught with issues, because, I mean, I can just give you one single name to point that out. Clarence Thomas. Appointed.
Yes.
Horrible decision for Black folk.
Absolutely. Well, it was intentional, right? That was intentional.
Yeah. Right. But my point, though, is that it's like, So when I hear that argument, my mind automatically says, yeah, but, you know, if mayors got to appoint judges, I mean, you know, who influences mayors? Who touches them? And what kind of decisions would they make? I mean, if the governor got to appoint, I mean, I hear it, but I still think, in spite of the compelling arguments on both sides, I would still go for an elected one over an appointed one any day, because at least with an elected one, you have the opportunity to truly make your case to the voters. And are bad judges going to slip in? Of course they are. But you might still get some that you would have never had it not been for an election.
Yeah, I think you're right. I agree with the election process. I just think that there's got to be a way that we can provide more funding for judicial candidates to be able to advertise and let people know who they are. I mean, there's a challenge because they have to walk a very thin, tightrope in terms of their funding and resourcing and things of that nature to be able to run for office that other candidates don't have to do. And I think that makes it very complicated because we don't know. But if we actually have a publicly funded election program, then they would have access to resources that publicly funds campaigns, and then they could do more in terms of education and getting their name out there and telling their story and how they view, their judicial practices and things of that nature. So hopefully we'll get to that sometime in the near future, though Philadelphia is not terribly progressive on issues like that.
Well, you make me think of something. I've always kind of heard that and thought like that had never happened. But actually, for some reason, maybe this morning my mind is working in a creative space. So what if you had like you said, a publicly funded election where there was a ban and prohibition about any other advertisements about a candidate from outside parties or anybody else. And the only ads that you could do, the only spaces would be that which is funded out of this public pot of money. How would that, I mean, could that even work? Would that even be constitutional? Because this is America.
Absolutely. There's states and cities that do this already.
Really?
This is not new. New York City does this. So, they have publicly funded elections. And so you raise like $8,000 and then the city matches whatever you raised. And it's actually designed to also help get people into races that they would not otherwise run because they could not afford to do so. Yeah. So, I mean, there are states and cities that are doing this already. I'm totally for publicly funded elections and also putting a cap on elections, too.
Right.
So that, you don't have the ability for somebody to donate like $1 million to themselves and then, use their money to, basically buy more ads and be more present than everybody else is. I think the playing field should be equal, and then people have to tell their story, and their story needs to be compelling.
All right. Well, listen, real quick before we get out of here. So again, I posted in the chat. There are multiple ways that you can watch the hearing today for the CPOC, the Citizens Police Oversight Commission. I'll be testifying along with Gail Lax and Amy from the Power Live Free. We actually have our own panel. There are multiple panels. Bro, they gave Power Live Free its own panel.
Oh, really?
Typically, we testified with like others. It'd be us, the ACLU, and no, they're like, you get your own panel. We'll be on in the early afternoon, I believe, probably like 1 or 2, looking at that long schedule. But again, it opens today at 10 a.m. Malcolm Jenkins has his own panel by himself. But of course, you got a Super Bowl ring. You can't tell that man anything. Give that man a panel. Malcolm is like, I'm not sharing the stage with anybody. I love y'all, but I get my own stage. So Malcolm, who has been tremendous, has been a great help to us, has appeared on a couple of programs for Power Live Free. He will open it up, and he is really well informed on this. Remember, he actually, the NFL Players Coalition, he had us, Elder Melanie and I, come and present for the NFL Players Commission. So he starts it, and it ends today with Michael Court, Esquire, with a closing argument, and a lot of people in between who are going to talk about the reasons that we need strong civilian oversight. One thing I want to say about this, there are amendments that have been proposed, and I think the knee-jerk reaction is the city legal team says, we can't do that, it won't pass, take it out. I want to submit to you that the city council, before you take stuff out, because the city legal team says that, who by default has a conservative position, you should get a second and third opinion from other lawyers.
There you go.
Do not just simply take it out because the solicitor said so. And look, the solicitor is trying to protect us and our money. I get that, but get a second and third opinion because some of this stuff might actually succeed.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for listening to us on the Power Hour this Monday morning. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the latest news happenings around Philadelphia and, of course, our opinions. We thank you for listening to us on the air, through the app, through Facebook, through YouTube. By whatever means you're listening to the show, we deeply appreciate you and everything you do. Thank you, Dr. Tyler, for coming every morning and bringing your stories and your concerns. Thank you, Grayson, for holding down the boards. Listen, stay tuned for Wake Up with Word with Solomon Jones. And family, do us a favor. Go out, change the damn world, because if you don't, nobody else will. Peace.
Deuces.